What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. Coach Joe here with Heartletics.com. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about why you are not successful. And I know, right? Pretty positive podcast that we run here and why such a negative topic for today. But here's the facts. I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to be successful. Okay, so even though it's entitled like why you're not successful, we first got to talk about it. Like it's the same thing when training a fat loss client, somebody that's looking to come to us, right? Let's say they're over the age of 40, right? They've been struggling with their health and fitness journey for years. They see our Facebook ad, they see some results. Next thing you know, they sign up for a free discovery call to see if coaching's a good fit for them. Well, guess what? It's the same thing. Like we can't just sign somebody up without first talking to them about their past. Because then when we kind of figure out like what they've tried before in the past and has failed them, we can again then share them with some knowledge on why that has failed them and what they should have done instead. That way it's learning. Like that's what coaching is. And guess what? Like people learn that information even before they're a client because we kind of share that with them on a qualification call. It's all about education. It's all about value. So understand that, hey, sometimes you got to go through hell to get to heaven. So we're going to be going over a few different things that might trigger you. It might piss you off, right? But at the end of the day, good. Because it might help you just think in terms of things differently. So this right here, and if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously you guys can see it. And if you're listening to this on, Spotify or iTunes or however you listen to the Heartletics podcast, which first off, I appreciate you, just an FYI. This is an image and you can find this on Google. And so maybe just type it in Google and so that way you can see it. But you can find it on Google. Just type in, I guess, success iceberg, whatever it is that you might find here. There's multiple ones that you can get. But regardless, it's a picture of an iceberg and you can only see the top. Okay. And at the top there, it says success. So the iceberg at the top, it's not as big as what's underneath it. And underneath it, right below the surface of the water, there's all these other things about the iceberg. And I'm just going to read off the list here because this simple photo, anytime I get discouraged, anytime I feel like, man, it's not going my way, like the business isn't succeeding as fast as I want it to, right? Or something's going on where, maybe my son's not paying attention to me and listening to me or respecting me. Where, I don't know, me and my wife, like we're just having a rough time or argument. Guess what? Like I can always just come here into my office and look at this image because this analogy is about life. So we can talk about health and fitness. We can talk about you becoming a millionaire. You want a red Porsche or a Ferrari. Guess what? Like whatever it is that you want in life, you want to lose 50 pounds, you want to get off your blood pressure and cholesterol meds, right? You want to whatever it is, have a mansion. Guess what? Like the same analogy that we're going to be talking about today applies for anything in life, And that's why I think that today's podcast, it needs to be a little bit negative. So that way you can just see the light at the end of the tunnel. Because at the end of the day, like if you don't see oh man, yeah, this is why I haven't been successful, right? It's going to open things up. It's going to help you look at things differently. And that's what we always say is the true value of Heartletics, our coaching program. It's not just meal plans and workouts and some check-in videos from, the coaches. It's we're helping you become the best version of yourself, not just physically with burning body fat and, learning these sustainable lifestyle, habits, but most importantly, mentally. Helping you have more discipline, helping you have more self-respect for yourself, prioritizing yourself. We're helping you just have more self-esteem, confidence, everything like that. But it's getting you to look at things differently. It's asking you deeper questions than anybody else is asking you probably in your life. And that's why shout out to all the other coaches, shout out to also everybody that's inside of our community group because you guys understand that, hey, it's okay to ask some hard questions. It's okay to, have somebody, be vulnerable, right? And peel back those layers and open up a little bit because guess what? That's when you start seeing things differently. And when you start seeing things differently, that's when you start getting different results in your life. So whatever it is that you want to achieve, maybe you want to burn some body fat, maybe you want to have $1 million, maybe you want to start up your own business, you got to understand that what we're about to talk about right here, this is the reality. It's the same. Here's the thing, all these analogies that I use, they are so easy to understand. This analogy that we're going to go over is the same thing as let's say video games. Have you ever played video games before? Well, guess what? You don't like just buy a video game and all of a sudden, hey, you got all the achievements, right? You unlocked all the bosses and unlocked all the special features and maps. Like, no, like you got to go through these steps. And every time there's a step, a new level, whatever, a new boss, it gets harder and harder the more you progress. You're not going to go through a game, right? And like, let's say level 10 boss is just as easy as level 1 boss. It typically doesn't work that way in most video games. It's typically your progression, right? And it's making you a better player, making your character in the video game stronger. And guess what? Like you as the person that's actually playing with the controller, it's making you more engaged because that's how our brains work, right? In a sense of, hey, if I just got past this and it gets harder, cool. Like, let's keep on progressing. We don't want to fail. We don't want to lose. We want to continue to go after it, right? There's a reward mechanism. Most of you guys, like, stop playing the game of life, honestly, when you got married and you had some kids. Like, you stopped having fun. Like, every single day, it's fun to me. And I'm never trying to say that to brag or boast, but I'm just letting you guys know, like, you can really start winning at life no matter how old you are. It's just that people get so stuck into, oh, I got married, so I got to, provide for them and my family now and, buy this house and have this mortgage and now I'm stuck into this, right? And provide because, hey, I'm trapped a little bit, right? And then we got kids now, so it's like, oh, provide. And you stop playing the game of life for yourself. You stop trying to become a winner at life, and then you start failing at life. And the next thing you know, right, 15, 20 years goes down the road, and something happens. Either, I don't know, maybe your kids, like, poke at your stomach and say, like, look, it's like marshmallow or whatever, something like that. We hear that all the time. Maybe you see all these other, dads in shape at the beach, and here you are with your shirt on. Maybe, I don't know, like, your doctor has that conversation saying, like, hey, just so you know, like, you really got to do something about your health here because now you're a type 2 diabetic. I tried warning you about it when we, gave you high blood pressure meds. Tried warning you about it, when we put you on cholesterol medications and that statin. And unfortunately, here we are as a type 2 diabetic. Like, so maybe that's the reality call. Maybe, I don't know, your spouse left you because you stopped caring about your own damn self, right? So now you're fat, you're ugly, you're out of shape because you just don't care. And at the end of the day, like, that's not attractive for anybody, And so when you stop playing the game of life, something usually happens where, holy cow, like, what just happened? A blink of an eye, like, everything went downhill. And the reality is most reasons why it goes downhill, and we're going to talk about this at the end because it's going to be probably the biggest key to success, is all about who's in your corner. And we'll get to that in a little bit. Because like I said, like right now, obviously, like no one likes hearing this, but if you just take a step back and like as a 30-year-old guy, right, like, there was recently, and I'm going to talk about this on tomorrow's podcast, somebody just completely dogged my coaching program, like told me everything they did not like about it. And the old me would have just been defensive, would have said like this and this and this. The new me, guess what? I wrote down everything, and within 24 hours, I literally changed everything about my business just to make a point saying that, hey, I'm mature to put my ego to the side, and instead of reacting, I'm going to take a step back and observe and say, okay, if this individual said this, what if other people are also struggling with that as well when they come into the program? Maybe this is other people in the past. Maybe this is current members also. They're just not telling me. What if this is future clients as well? So I'm looking in terms of observing how can we just make it so it's more effective, it's easier, and instead of me taking it to heart, because obviously this is my livelihood, this is my business, I just put emotions to the side. Some of you guys don't know how to do that, and yet you still think you're your own body mechanic and you can change your health and change your life because every time you cut out carbs, you instantly lose 20 pounds of, guess what? Nothing but water weight, not actually fat loss. And then, hey, eventually life throws you some curveballs. You get hit in the face. You go back to your old ways. And then boom, right? The weight piles right back on. And then you go back to your old ways where you're like, hey, you know what? I should probably just go back to cutting out carbs again and go back to a diet because, hey, nothing's changed. And I just wasn't disciplined enough to stick with it. It's like, no, dummy. Like, you just did all the wrong things. And at the end of the day, like, you got nobody helping you on this journey. So one, you're lacking the knowledge. Two, nobody's supporting you when life throws you curveballs. So put the ego to the side and just, we're 10 minutes in this podcast. I didn't even talk about this yet. what I'm trying to talk about. And I'm just saying all this to get your attention to think differently. Hopefully I got your attention now. And hopefully you just start thinking differently, because right here, guys, this is the key to success. And some of you guys got your big girl panties on, and you just don't understand like the potential that you at 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. If you're breathing, right? If you woke up today, you're listening to this podcast, guess what, brother? Like, somebody else didn't make it today. You did. You got breath in your lungs, which means you can still make a change in your life. Age is nothing but a number, and we know that because we got guys all the time in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, their 70s signing up for our coaching program because they realize the strongest tool on their strongest tool on their body is not their muscles. It's their mindset. And everybody's starting to see the transition that Heartletics is making with guys, help them become more mentally stronger, emotionally stronger. That's how you man up. And this analogy right here, going back to, the iceberg of success, everybody can see the success at the top, okay? Everybody can. But you don't understand what's going on underneath the surface, people. And so for everybody that's listening to this on Spotify and iTunes and wherever you listen to podcasts, underneath the water, you don't see the hard work, the persistence, the late nights, the rejections, the sacrifice, the discipline, the criticism, the doubts, the risk, the failures. Nobody sees that. They only see success at the top. Guys, think about whoever it is, your favorite sports teams, anything like that, okay? Favorite actors. I love The Rock, right? I love his work ethic, everything like that. But guess what? Like, you see billionaire, The Rock, greatest, movie star, everything like that. Great actor. Did you not know that he was also broke at one time? Didn't have any money? Like, everybody that you see at the top, they understand this metaphor of life. It's like Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, 3 Feet from Gold. When everybody rushed around to California for the great gold rush. Well, guess what? One digger, right, searching for the gold, stops. Just like you, just like everybody else, they stop when they have the hard work, the persistence, the late nights, the rejections, the sacrifice, the discipline, the criticism, the doubts, the failures. They stop. And somebody else that's more persistent, somebody else goes right in there and continues to dig. And eventually, right, they reach the gold. And you get to see that and realize, man, you were so close, but you stopped. Let me ask you a question. Most people that watch this or listen to this, they're typically married. Okay, cool. Well, so like your spouse, did you just go up to them and immediately just say like, hey, like, will you marry me? Like, you don't even know their name. You're just like, oh, this pretty lady, right? Let me drop down on one knee, right? Will you marry me and have a family with me? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, the reality is that's not how it is, but that's the success that you have in terms of your family, right? Because you value your family like you should, as a man will, right? You value your family, right? That's at the top of the iceberg. That's success. But if you're looking back, I'm sure like you went up to her, you probably had to have some balls, right? And some confidence to go up to them, right? And ask, maybe what their name is, maybe what their number is. You eventually, right, didn't just hit it off and then immediately just start, go right into marriage and having kids. Like, no, you had to go through dates. You probably had to go through some rough patches. Eventually, obviously, like, working up the balls once again to drop down on one knee, ask for their hand in marriage. You had to go through some rough patches again. And then guess what? Eventually having some kids, more rough patches. And then guess what? You're at the top, like, holy cow. Like, I have a beautiful family. Everybody's healthy. I'm grateful for everybody. Like, this is amazing. And you don't realize you had to go through a whole bunch of storms. You had to go through a whole bunch of trials and tribulations and adversity in your life. But because you didn't give up, it's not like you got a divorce, right? Or immediately broke up because, they I don't know, don't like the same movies that you like. It's not like you broke up. Like, no, you work with those differences. You continue to persist, right? And eventually, guess what? It gets a lot easier at the top. Just like The Rock, well, guess what? He had to persist, right? Failed at playing college football, And then he had to start off with like the wrestling and then the acting. And guess what? It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? No, he had to work to where he's at now at the top. Playing a video game, beating the video game, work, beat those bosses, right? Level up, boom, you're at the top. You beat the video game. The problem is, most of you guys stop playing the game of life. You don't know this analogy is anything. You want, fancy shiny car, $1 million? Well, guess what? Hard work, persistence, right? Like, you gotta go through the storms. And like, I always say this, always, every single time. Anybody can do anything when life is easy. That's easy, right? It's simple, right? Cut out carbs, intermittent fasting, tons of cardio, right? Like, oh, I don't need a nutritionist. I don't need a coach. I got this. YouTube's free. Google's free. But guess what? You're dealing with some crap at work. You're dealing with some crap at home, some stress. You got nobody in your corner, no support. You give up. You go back to your old ways, right? Because anybody can do anything when life's easy. But when life throws you curveballs, adversity, which that's the inevitable, it always will. Guess what? Like, that's when you go back to your old ways. So my question to you is this, because obviously you got to have the mindset to understand that, hey, whatever you're going through right now, and hey, if you're a client right now struggling to burn body fat or struggling to see your goals because maybe you care too much about the number on the scale, so maybe cool it back a little bit. But understand also like this is a work in progress. I always say it like this. We're always going to teach somebody the realization of somebody's body fat and their trends. And there's always 3 different types of individuals, right? Let's say somebody's starting off here at 200 pounds and they want to get down to, let's say, 180 pounds. Well, guess what? Individual 1, right? They're going to lose some weight, gain some weight, lose some weight, gain some weight, lose some weight, gain some weight, lose some weight. Eventually, they're going to reach 180 pounds. But here's the reality. They didn't give up. On those weeks where they gained some weight, they didn't go back to their old ways because they had support, they had community, right? Individual type 2, right here, they're going to lose some weight, hit a little plateau, lose some weight, hit a little plateau, lose some weight, hit a little plateau, lose some weight. Guess what? They eventually reached their goals. They did not give up. Individual 3, they're going to lose some weight, hit a little plateau, gain some weight, lose some weight, hit a little plateau, gain some weight, lose some weight, hit a little plateau, gain some weight, lose some weight, hit a little plateau. Boom. They didn't give up. They eventually reached their goals that they wanted. And it's so simple. Like, once you realize, like, oh, cool, like, these are the trends. It's supposed to be this way. Life gets so much easier because now you don't go back to feeding the bad wolf. Now you don't get discouraged. Now you don't retreat. Now, here's the biggest takeaway as to, okay, Joe, I get that. Hey, anything I want in life, it's at the top. I got to go through some hell in order to get to heaven. I understand that. Joe, what can I do, though, to actually make sure that I can get there? It's very simple. I mentioned this in the very beginning, right? There is one thing that anybody can do to easily have success. One thing. Protect their inner circle. Protect their inner circle. What does that mean? Well, my inner circle, right? The people that I'm hanging around myself the most around with, right? Because I'm a firm believer that, hey, you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. Les Brown, he's the motivational speaker. He said it best. Birds of a feather flock together. Hang around in life with losers, you will become a loser. Hang around in life with winners, you will become a winner. Guess what? There was at one point, right, I used to hang out with a lot of people that did nothing but just drinking, drugs, right? Living for the weekends, partying. And guess what? Like, nothing but just caring about, like, who's playing the game on Sundays. They knew more about the players' stats than they did about, like, their own life. And I just started to just slowly but surely move my way out of that and just say, think, instead of responding, reacting, take my emotions out and just say, if this is going to be the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of my life, is this going to be worth it for me in the end? The answer was obviously no. And so I had to go through this course of really picking and choosing who I want to be in my inner circle and kicking people out. The reason why is because I'm a firm believer that if you're around me, right, you're on my team, guess what? Like, there's a reason for that. And maybe because I respect you in some way and I look up to you. Maybe it's because you also tell me, right, what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. The people that are the yes men, I kick out of my inner circle. The people that are like, let's face the facts, they're not goal oriented, right? They're not trying to improve themselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. They're out of my inner circle. I don't want to waste time with people that don't care about improving themselves. And I know that might sound a little bit aggressive, but hear me out. We got people that come into our coaching program all the time. They come in and they're just like, hey, like, I just want to be a fly on the wall, kind of just like, hey, I know this whole thing about mindset and community, but I just want to follow through with the meal plans, follow through with the workouts, and just see what happens, right? These are the same individuals that tell us this, which, Chris C., I'm going to give you a big shout out, brother, because I'm talking about you right now. These are the same individuals, right, that are literally taking off their shirts, flexing every Friday for our flex photos inside of the community group at Heartletics. The same individuals that, guess what, when they start off the program, they wanted nothing to do with the community, nothing to do with all that, but eventually they just started day over day, right? Step over step, one step outside their comfort zone. Maybe it's a little bit of asking questions inside the groups. Maybe it's a little bit of just joining our weekly Zoom chats. They get a little bit more comfortable. Now all of a sudden, they're very active in there. Now all of a sudden, they're taking off their shirts in front of all these other guys that they don't even know because they're building that confidence. Because they're surrounding themselves with people that care for them in their lives. They're surrounding themselves with people that want to see them grow. Not the losers that only care about who's playing the favorite sports teams and care so much about them. And, you know, those are the same guys that's yelling. And I used to see this all the time, going to like the bars watching MMA fights and boxing matches. Like sitting there as somebody as an MMA fighter, right? That actually knows what they're doing, having some fat ass sit next to you, eat wings, drink beer, literally say, oh, that person should have stopped kicking and actually going for a takedown. Like, what? Who are you to give any advice? Who? And it's because everybody thinks they're better than themselves. When the reality is, if you're the better person, if you're the biggest, strongest person in your inner circle, guess what? You got to find a new circle, buddy. That's why I always say, if I'm the smartest person in the room, I got to find a new room ASAP. Because I'm not growing anymore. I'm not developing as a man. And my job as a man is to put myself through some pain. I was asked, Joe, how do you develop such a strong mindset? You're 30 years old, you've been through hell and back, and like you've just been progressing. It seems like week over week you're a new person. And I simply said this, I look forward to the pain. I embrace the pain. I enjoy that. We go to the gym to work out our muscles, right? Do some bicep curls, put stress, we grow that. But yet, when life throws us curveballs, adversity, most guys, they go back to their old ways. Most guys scared and run off to the fences. I look forward to that. I go to my team, I ask for support, I need help, I get that sense of community, I get that sense of encouragement, and I level up. I overcome those life curveballs. And I thank, right, my team so much, my inner circle, for helping me with that. My friends, my family, my teammates, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. Once again, most of you guys, you got to check who are the 5 people that you're hanging around with the most. Because most of you guys, you don't know what pain is. I'll tell you what pain is right here. There's always going to be pain, right? There's 2 types of pain, plain and simple, right? There is the pain of regret and the pain of discipline. I always say it like this, right? Like, it's a cold winter day. You don't want to get up out of bed, but you do. Guess what? Like, that's hard to do. It's painful. You want to, hey, it feels great, right? Inside that bed, you got the pillow, the blanket, nice and warm. It's painful getting up in the early morning to go work out. It's not exactly enjoyable, but it builds up your discipline. Now, the pain of regret, here's the thing, right? Let's just talk about in terms of measurements, right? The pain of regret, that simply weighs, put it like this, right? Regret weighs ounces. Discipline weighs tons. Regret weighs ounces. Discipline weighs tons. What's more painful, right? Is it more painful, right? Growing, right? And becoming bigger and stronger, right? And obviously, like, you got to go to the gym, you got to eat healthy, right? You got to have discipline. Sure, like, that's not exactly easy. You're step outside your comfort zone, right? But also, like, what is more painful? On your deathbed, wishing, right, that and regretting that you would have made better, healthier decisions, wishing that you would have took care of yourself, wishing that you would have prioritized yourself a lot more. I always say it like this, like, every single day, it's a challenge because I'm literally physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually pushing myself outside of my comfort zone every single day. 1% better is what we talk about Heartletics. And it just helps you so much over the course of just these small little steps, where that huge stepping stone, that success, when you're looking back months, years down the road, and you're like, I'm blessed that I went through all that pain. That's how I simply developed such a strong mindset, is because I understand that trying to get to the top of success, you have to go through pain. Some of you guys don't know that. You have to understand that. It's anything that you want in life. It's growth, right? Like, it's suffering. It's painful. It's anything. Like, the analogy, right, works just like an arrow. Sometimes pulling back on that bow, that arrow, there's a lot of tension, right? It's hard right there. But eventually when you let go, right, the farther you pull that bow back, the farther that arrow is going to go in life. So you guys have to have the same analogy when it comes to your life. No matter if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, your 90s. You can always make a difference in your life. Always. So I know, like, obviously starting off the podcast, hey, it's not fun, right, putting your ego to the side. It's not fun being told you're not successful. But here's the reality. You can always make a change. And the best way to make a change is to just find some people in your corner that care more about you and can see the light at the end of the tunnel than you right now. And that could be tough because you got to put your ego to the side. You have to admit probably, like, hey, I need help. And as guys, that's not exactly, like, easy to do. But as soon as you start peeling back those layers, being vulnerable, it makes things a lot easier. Hands down. So as we wrap things up here, guys, on the podcast, I'm going to give you guys just 2 simple call to actions. One, if you're a member inside the Heartletics community group, go inside the community group, tag everybody, and I want you taking a minute to yourself and being a little bit selfish. Because maybe, right, I just used the analogy about, like, a video game and, like, obviously marrying somebody and going through some hard times. Everybody, right, everybody can find something to be a little bit proud of themselves, be a little bit selfish. And if you're a member inside the Heartletics community, go inside the community groups, tag everybody, and just be prideful. Be selfish. Like, be proud of yourself for once and just say, hey, I've been through this in my life. All that pain, all that suffering led me to a better outcome. I'm glad I didn't give up. Because I know for a fact, like, if I would have committed suicide, that would have been the end of it. There would be no Heartletics. I'm glad I didn't give up. Sometimes that pain, that suffering really helps you to becoming a stronger person mentally and emotionally. And as long as you don't give up, I promise you, you're going to have that success. But you need to understand everything that's underneath the surface, that it's also going to be hard. And if you're somebody that is listening in and you're not a Heartletics member, well, first off, that's a problem right there. Check yourself. Go to Heartletics. Listen to us. Honestly, like, we have a free fat loss video that goes over everything. Everything. So I would say that your call to action is go to heartletics.com. Go click on the free training, right? For, being fit over 40. Literally, you want to learn how to change your life physically, mentally, support all the knowledge, it's right there in that video. And then if you're like, okay, but Joe, you said something about the sum of the 5 people that I hang around with. You keep on talking about the sense of community. I realize here that it's just a bunch of yes people in my life, people that are not pushing me, people that are not supporting me, people that also don't care about myself growing, and it's hard. Joe, I need help. That's what I need. I need community. I need Heartletics. That's what I actually need. I need coaches that's going to tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And if that's you right now, go to heartletics.com. Schedule a free call with either myself or somebody from my team and just apply to see if coaching's a good fit. That's all I have to say. And if you guys have got any value at all from today's podcast episode, or I said something that may have resonated with you to just help you in terms of being more successful, please Go on Facebook or Instagram, share this podcast episode. And as always, I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.